Comics Paradox.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will introduce you, Brandon. Would introduce you as Powerful Brandon.
That's what my name fucking says, right?
Just making sure. And then you'll introduce Justin.
No. Actually, can you introduce me as Aloysius Q Thunderpants?
Aloysius.
Is this on your list?
No, I just made that up right
Okay.
now. Right off the top of my fucking brain right here.
His friends call him Gus Pence.
Right off the brainium. Gus for short, though. My friends call me Gus. You can call me Mr. Pants.
Hey, welcome to Comics Paradox. This is going to be a blast. I'm not going to tell you anything about it, but I know you're going to enjoy it. So he goes by Aloysius Q Thunderpants. His friends call him Gus Pants, but his name is Powerful Brandon. How's it going, my friend?
I can't believe you took my suggestion. That's amazing. Thank you.
Powerful Brandon, you are our host, our ringleader to this awesomeness, sir. I want to thank you for putting this together, but yeah, kick it off.
Thank you very much for joining the festivities, as it were. Comics Paradox. I'm here, and we're going to be talking about some fun stuff. The overall premise is going to be alternate reality stories, the characters and stories that you grew up knowing and loving, and looking at them from a skewed or parallax view, where we ask the question, what if? And that obviously will entail covering things such as Marvel's What If series. There have been a few different versions of that series over the decades, as well as the other one of the big two, DC. That publisher made Elseworlds, usually in prestige formats, for quite a while, the 90s up through the late aughts into the 21st century. And of course, once we get into all that nitty gritty, we can actually start looking at other different types of comics that may not necessarily be Marvel or DC, but still kind of take a look at what pastiches or different versions, different takes on the type of a character might be, like archetypes. You have your Superman archetype in something like Omni-Man in Invincible, things like that. And we will be kicking this off with a traditional what if. We'll get more into that as we start discussing. And the guy with all the minutia, he dug deep, man. A game of Dig Dug was Mr. El Cooperino himself, Justin Cooper.
I like how we're both starting off with our what if names. Like what if that was your name and what if that was mine? So yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've got some minutia of would you like me to kick it off by telling them what comics we will be covering today?
Absolutely. I would very much like that, and I'm sure they would too.
All right, so today we're going to be covering Marvel's What If #1. So it was originally published in February of 1977. What if Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four? And the other comic that we're going to be covering, because it's a companion to this, the actual story that this started out in was Amazing Spider-Man #1 from March of 1963.
Indeed, and it was a thrilling read the first time, and then I read it a second time.
Yeah, it sure holds up.
Yeah, it was really great. I will say, as a concept, starting off with this book, and especially two of the most popular IPs that Marvel Comics had at that point. I mean, Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, mainstays, staples of Marvel Comics, the House of Ideas, through and through. We're talking Ditko, Kirby. You can't beat that shit with a stick. unless you take almost verbatim half of the first issue that you were planning on doing and just sticking it in and then changing the last like 7 pages. Because that's kind of what they did here. They took it for granted that no one was going to understand what this concept was. So they needed to double back and remind everybody up to the point where everything changed. And it's very interesting to see how they were doing that to as a reminder to maybe those who had read stuff years ago, but also people who were new to it and maybe just didn't quite understand, like, what did Spider-Man not join the Fantastic Four? I don't get it. I thought, aren't they all heroes together? You know, granted, I don't know why the fuck you're picking up a comic book at that point. Like, talk to somebody before you just willy-nilly spend 12 cents. But it's really interesting to see that, especially with something like this what if story. Adults in the 70s who made these stories were playing around the same exact way most of us were on the schoolyard.
Yeah.
You know, like, what if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? What if the Hulk, you know, had been smart the entire time? You know, that's what like every 10-year-old boy and girl does that loves comic books.
No, it's what we do now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not also a 10-year-old boy or girl. Right? It's pretty bold of you to presume that I wasn't saying that, but Mazel tov, baby. I teach
I thought we were confirming it, but
yeah, right.
It's interesting too that Roy Thomas, I know him more as an editor than a writer, but this book, What If #1, reads like it's written by an editor. You know, okay, this needs to happen, so what do I do to get it there? All right, this needs to happen, let's make it happen. You know, as opposed to when you do read something like Amazing Spider-Man, it's like it's not like you're reading Macbeth or some Shakespearean work, but you know, it's kind of well thought out and put together, and there's a lot more things that kind of dovetail. Whereas some of the things that happen in the What If, it's just kind of circumstantial. It's like, and now, giant octopus. Okay, all right, well that makes sense because you know things.
Yeah, there was a sense of let's just fucking throw this on the wall.
Yeah.
See what sticks. Like, well, guys, we changed one thing, so everything goes. Go bananas.
Yeah.
And they did, but not in a way that it's like blowing your mind because, like, can't believe they went there. It's more like, I can't believe that they just turned all of these panels into fucking 17 non sequiturs. None of this has anything to do with anything except for one point in the What If where they're like, hey, this argues all the way back to the classic issue Fantastic Four #14. I'm like, wait, hold on. I didn't know there was even more homework I needed to do to read this one issue.
Clearly, you've never read a Silver Age comic.
Why did I get half of Amazing Spider-Man #1 at the beginning of this issue of fucking What If, but I only get like a quick asterisk and like, oh yeah, read this comic too. When it comes to that, I'm like, I think I'd probably like that story more than what you had me read before this. Like, I don't know.
Well, just one other point on this is right now we have the ability to go and find these issues. Like you can go back to Fantastic Four #14 if you want. At this time when these come out, there's no way to get that. There's no compendium. There's no database because there's nothing set up. The only people that had that are the people who were making the comics. So you had to go and actually track down that issue to try and read that. So what was happening is there's a lot of people that are like fans and nostalgic and all that from way back there who would fill in the gaps with kind of like headcanon and nostalgia. That's a huge part of what was a big draw of comics at the time. So I think that the What Ifs kind of draw on that because you can't go back necessarily and read that if you don't have Fantastic Four #14. But you can be like, oh, okay. You know, it gives us that little bit of flashback, not like a Batman comic, brand, you know, as you mentioned, you know, but you know, you kind of have like that little throwback.
Parents getting shot in an alley and pearl necklaces.
What about uncles who get shot?
When you say pearl necklace, no, an actual pearl necklace. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's cool too. Well, sure.
I mean, it's even referenced in the What If, you know.
Yeah. Go back and check it.
Well, no. I mean, as of the trouble of getting a back issue, because they reference, as seen in Spider-Man #1, if you can read it, if you remember it, because it's priceless now.
Hmm.
So
Suckers. They should have just put that at the end.
yeah.
Fucking jive ass turkeys. Bet you wish you had spent 12 fucking cents back then, huh, dickwad? But yeah, I mean, the thing is, for someone like me growing up, and I was primarily a DC kid, but I discovered What Ifs, and the guy who lived up the street from me, he was only a few years older than me, like seriously, like 5 years older. So we were both kids. He let me borrow comics all the time, and thankfully, he was like so mixed on his Marvel and DC, and he just had so much stuff that when I actually saw the What Ifs and started kind of buying them at my local comic book store, I started getting very curious about what the original stories were, and he actually had quite a few of them. Like I, I was able to borrow the individual issues of Atlantis Attacks from him.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
This is the same guy. I was in fourth grade. In fourth grade for me, and I'm not saying this to make you feel ancient, Leo. So don't pump the brakes. But fourth grade, I started fourth grade in 1991, and I was the only kid my age that I knew at all that had read all 12 issues and a shitload of the tie-ins for Crisis on Infinite Earths. And not only that, I understood it. Like, I talked so much about it with my friend Kevin, who let me borrow all this stuff, that I was never confused. It was all right there in front of me. And that really sparked my love of alternate reality versions of heroes and stories.
Nice.
Because going through Crisis on Infinite Earths and seeing like Earth 3 with the crime syndicate and just like these evil versions of the Justice League, but then Alexander Luthor is the one superhero that, like, it was like mind-blowing for me. And I was like 9 years old. I was hooked, and I started tracking down What Ifs. I would ask him questions about stuff I didn't know, and he would provide me with any books that he had. And then I ended up just collecting every single one of them. That was like so much of my high school experience. I would go to conventions and any stores in the area that I could find out about. And you got to remember, like, there was a good stretch of time where there was no internet to easily find such things.
Yep.
So you really had to like trek and kind of chuck and pray, as it were, if you were going with a pull list in hand. But it was.
What about the Marvel Universe card set? Were you into that at all in, say, fourth grade? Because that would have been right about when the second series came out.
Yeah, I was into that. The Marvel trading series. Is that the one that had a lot? I'm trying to think. It was like sort of
Art Adams.
but I'm trying to think, like, the borders of the cards. A lot of them. I think on the backside, especially where it showed their stats.
Yeah. So your first one was in 1990. The second one's in 1991. The second series had a ton of Art Adams and like Eric Larson art, and it had like the powers like on the back, and it's like, oh, Reed Richards is a 7 intelligence.
Yeah.
Like
Okay,
that.
yeah. It had like a purplish background for all that. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, I was super into that. The X-Men Series 1 trading cards.
Oh,
and
definitely. Yeah.
DC Cosmic cards.
Yep.
DC Cosmic cards is like a huge fucking set too, and I have every.
Yeah, it was like it was so big you couldn't fit it in one like plastic thing. You had to have like half of it in the other one.
But
Yeah.
it was so good. It was so informative, and like I was a Who's Who junkie anyway, and it was just like a miniature version of that entire idea. What's up, Leo?
Well, no, I just vaguely, and I got them in a closet downstairs.
Okay. I feel like that should not be the first thing you say.
Let him know.
Who do you have locked up downstairs, Leo?
Well, a lot of the Marvel and DC characters, talking about the comics. I'm pretty sure I have a DC set, and it came with a DC binder.
Oh, cool.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I actually just sold mine, and I had about 4 of the hologram cards with that DC set. But like Brandon is saying, it's awesome because you could look at it's like, wait a minute, there's been 3 different Blue Beetles. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
So it's and I had no idea. Yeah.
And there's something to taking the familiar characters or stories and just kind of bending them slightly and trying to see like that road less traveled by. And with this particular issue of What If, which, like we said, it's volume 1, number 1, the first issue of the 47 issue series that they did over 7 years at Marvel Comics. And it was wise of them to use Spider-Man and Fantastic Four in their first issue. Um, the fleshing out of the concept and execution is clearly something that they're doing along with this. We see in Amazing Spider-Man number 1 that Peter goes through all the things that we know he goes through when it comes to, one, the hubris that essentially inadvertently enabled a robber to kill his uncle. But then on the heels of that, once you get past Amazing Fantasy, that quick origin, you see that Peter and his Aunt May, and I'm saying Aunt only because that's how it's usually said in Spider-Man productions and such.
Mhm.
But he and his Aunt May, they're worried about what they're going to do for money. He has not yet figured out that he can take photographs of Spider-Man and sell them to J. Jonah Jameson. But he does find out that J. Jonah Jameson hates his guts. And he goes to the Fantastic Four, being 15 and seeing a bright, shiny building in the middle of New York City. And these folks who also have superpowers, and figures, hey, I'll just ask them for a job. They'll give me a job because we're all superheroes. And of course, there's a mixed reaction because he fucking breaks into the Baxter building like a genius. And they kind of get into a little bit of a back and forth physically and verbally, and it kind of ends with Johnny and Ben kind of verbally coming at Peter the whole time, and then he's finally, fine, screw you guys, I'm going home. And Sue yells out, no, wait, don't go. And Spidey swings off, and he's just like, nah, whatever, I'm just gonna go do my own thing. I'll figure out money somehow.
I'm a
Well,
one-man wolf pack.
yeah, and then he does this Spider-Man thing. We get it.
Just
Well,
real
yep.
quick, he says, "You guys look like pikers."
Yeah. Yeah, that's an antiquated term too. I'd noticed that.
Well,
He says that in both versions too of
Yeah.
the story.
I don't know if you noticed too, but in the Amazing Spider-Man number 1, when he's trying to figure out how to get into the Baxter building, and they're saying like, oh, he walks up, blah blah blah. They call him Peter Palmer.
Yeah.
Like twice. 2 completely different pages and panels. It's like maybe is it
I remember seeing
right there, right? It's yep, it's 1 2 on the second page, and it's the 5th panel in, right in the middle of the page. It says minutes later, Peter Palmer something, and it does the same thing on like the next page or whatever. It was like Peter Palmer.
Sounds
All
like
right.
sounds like a terrible brother of Robert Palmer,
Sounds like a fucking porn actor, crying out loud.
So apparently, from what I've read, Stan Lee is known for that, known for forgetting names early on.
Oh, okay. Like Scott Summers was Slim Summers.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing, but
No.
still.
I mean, yeah, and that's why they nicknamed him Slim, to fix Stan's fuck up. Oh, really? Yeah.
Charles
And now you know the
Xavier.
rest of the story. But it's interesting to note in this issue of What If, we do get what ends up becoming the staple of the series through both volumes, and that is Uatu the Watcher.
Yes.
Who we come to learn is stationed on the blue area of the moon. And he simply watches. He watches all of our Earth's existence and reality, and that is it. He merely watches to record and make note. He doesn't do anything other than observe. He is sworn to not get involved, but he is aware that we are the audience, and he is saying, "Hey, you know what happened on this timeline. Let's take a look at what could have happened if somebody had, you know, spit out their chewing gum on the sidewalk that day. Oh, look at that! Nick Fury has both eyes."
This is page 3 that we were just looking at there. I just want to point out that that picture of Deathlock is probably the most beautifully drawn thing in this entire book.
Yeah,
It's more detailed than the rest of the book and all that, and I'm like, this is pretty decent. Like the art here, like they're really channeling the Kirby-esque aspect of these things. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have as much a complaint about the art in this book for sure.
well, it's so weird too, because Amazing Spider-Man #1 is drawn by Steve Ditko, but he's utilizing the Fantastic Four within that story, which is a signature Jack Kirby creation. And we have Ditko doing his Spider-Man thing, which, Ditko Spider-Man always looks amazing, but
Or spectacular,
or sensational even.
Yeah, it's sensational.
But the thing is, when it comes to the Fantastic Four characters, especially the Thing, he doesn't do like kind of the lumpy, featureless Ben Grimm thing that Jack Kirby did for so long before we got used to like the ridged eyebrows and kind of bowler shaped head for the Thing. And it's to see Ditko doing Kirby's character, it's very, very interesting and different. But then when you get to the what if, it's like generational loss. You're getting like a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
And it feels slightly off. Like it's almost right. I feel like you hit the tint button one too many times, and it's a little greener than it should be, kind of deal. And but aside from that, it is very well drawn. The design of Uatu is so early stages in this particular issue. Yeah, he has a big head, but not in like the kind of semi friendly way it looks.
Yeah.
Later on, this dude looks menacing,
And he has pupils, which I have never seen Uatu the Watcher with pupils ever.
Yeah, it's this has all the elements inside of it that makes a what if series concept fun and worthwhile to check out.
Mhm.
And there's really nowhere to go but up from here. I will say they spent an awful lot of time telling us what you should already know, or they could have done it quicker, which the Marvel Comics, they get adept at that with that series. They understand the quick rapid fire introduction of whatever the scenario is supposed to be, and then diving into, now this is different. There's not a whole lot more. Or Uatu provides you with the exposition at the beginning in like a page and a half, and then the rest of the story is what it is, with a coda by Uatu saying, doing his Rod Serling bit.
Yeah.
This one, they threw a whole lot of different stuff happening, which it's hard to gauge like what should have happened, what versus what we see in the what if. And I mean, the end result is they get to a thorn in some of the Fantastic Four members' sides. Namor, the Submariner, and Peter turned around at the point where Sue screamed, "No, wait," when he looked for a job, instead of just swinging off. That is how he comes back, talks with them, and actually becomes the fifth member of what would become the Fantastic Five. Well, there's a whole big thing with a whole bunch of different enemies. They do like this weird montage and talk about so what is it, Voltag or whatever the guy's name is. I can't even remember. Just someone who's so mired in like 60s Marvel, it's really inconsequential.
Was that the Red Ghost in this one?
Maybe I'm just saying, like, they threw a lot of kind of like middling characters in there. Be like, oh, look, they fought and this kind of happened different, but they still won and blah blah blah. But then they also helped Spider-Man with some of his villains, like you see right there, the Vulture. You know, probably prevented the Sinister Six from ever forming.
And the thing about the Chameleon, it's like this was the character that was going to kind of put Spider-Man on radar for J. Jonah Jameson with all these crimes and things like that.
Yep.
There is such mischaracterization in this entire book. It is like ridiculous. Just like all around, where it's like, oh, I'm the Chameleon. I was going to do this one thing with Spider-Man. Now I think I'll quit and go into obscurity. What?
Yeah, it was definitely very odd, and like
Yeah.
the astuteness of the people who caught Chameleon in it. They catch Chameleon because his cop uniform that he was impersonating a cop ripped, and he was still wearing his Spider-Man uniform from when he was trying to frame Spider-Man underneath. And they were like, "Hey, that's the guy! Must be the one trying to frame Spider-Man." Oh, and he's like, "Oh, I guess you caught me." I'm like, wait, what?
I think the part with the Vulture is actually pretty decent. Like just in terms of how it goes and how formidable he actually is, shows that Spider-Man is actually having trouble fighting the Vulture. You know, and
yeah, but also what kind of difference it would make if Spider-Man actually had backup.
Exactly.
You know, instead of just being a friggin' sophomore in high school that's wearing friggin' spandex and getting his ass handed to him by some crazy ass John Malkovich looking like in a green suit and wings.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but moving along, it is cool. You know, they're playing back and forth with Spider-Man villains, Fantastic Four villains, and that's all fine and dandy. It makes perfect sense that you would see crossover between the two characters' worlds because now they are just one world. That's Fantastic Five. We see apes and friggin' mermen jumping around.
Yeah,
And
the Red Ghost was like a 1960s stable, and I think he fought everyone. He was basically this guy who could turn intangible, and he had like mental control over these robot apes, which was insanity. So, but that's the Red Ghost, and he fought everyone from
yeah,
Charles
it sounds
Xavier to
bananas.
yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things, and I looked and I'm like, is that the Red Ghost? And sure enough, I looked. I'm like, oh yeah, he's like a Soviet scientist or something like that. And it's like
That
he had
is
something to do with Africa or South America or something. It's like I'm like, is that a baboon? I'm like, yeah.
that
And
is
it's so of the time too, because it's like, oh yeah, Cold War era. We got to use the bad Russian guy. So
the bad Russian guy.
well, that's
like
a
it.
thing. The chameleon, Dmitry what's his name, Smirnikov, is actually
Gesundheit.
he's the half brother to Craven the Hunter.
Oh,
So
Craven,
you
that
know,
fellow.
it's funny to
He's
think like
bad news.
this guy's going to go into obscurity. It's like, yeah, your brother's going to pretty much come back and be like the ultimate Spider-Man villain for a little while. So you know, don't
Well,
go too far.
speaking about, I guess, ultimate villains, or I mean, I don't want to say villain, but certainly pains in the ass. Namor the Submariner shows up and does his whole, yeah, I'm a prince of Atlantis and I wear nothing but a fucking green chainmail speedo with a yellow belt and I have wings on my ankles. Yo, Sue Storm, you wanna go do the old freaky nana? You down to clown? And of course, Reed Richards has always had a problem with that, and she's always like, I don't know who to choose. Who do I go with? And it's really emblematic and problematic. Emblematic of the stories and how they were written at the time. Problematic because, I mean, god damn it, Susan Storm is a doctor. She is just as fucking smart and brilliant as Reed Richards, and it's so fucking enraging to see her reduced to this. It's so fucking shitty.
Yeah, she's a lampshade. She may as well be a lamp with a lampshade in this, because they marginalize her to the point where she's not going on missions, and then she's petty about it, and to the point where, like, even you know it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was just controlled by the puppet master, but now I think I'm gonna do this. It's like, this does not sound like Susan Storm ever.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is, I mean they go up against Namor and he's fighting them and they don't quite understand what's happening, and then Namor's like, "Why can't I fight this? That's not water, it's alcohol." Uh, it's just okay. We get it, the puppet master, sure, and then she still gets real petty, real shitty, and kind of just throws shade right at Reed, and she's like, "I choose Namor," and the whole thing is like the choice she's making is to step in to his giant sea ship and
Yes. Yep.
turn into an Atlantean instead of a human, but like a full-blooded Atlantean, not a half Atlantean mutant like Namor who can breathe underwater and on land. She can only breathe underwater now, and she spends the rest of her time apparently at the end of this book living with Namor and being his wife. Reed Richards and the three other members of the now Fantastic Four walk away, and Spider-Man's lamenting because that's what he does. He feels guilty about everything bad that ever happens to anybody.
That's true to form, at very least.
He's the Woody Allen of superheroes. Oh God! If only I stopped the great power. But he he's talking with Reed, feeling bad, and of course we get to the point where it's just like, Pete, don't get too hard on you. Don't get too hard on yourself. I mean, if you hadn't joined us, then these things probably would have happened anyway. And then it's like, I'm the Watcher. This is What If, the Watcher. Bye. And it's like, oh, tune in next month.
I was hearing more of, if you remember, like the Super Friends and all that, just the same time in the Legion of Doom. Like, I was hearing that in my head with him.
Meanwhile, like, at the Hall of Justice.
Exactly, like exposition dumping, and he's just like,
don't move the page. Hold on. There are worlds within worlds, worlds which exist side by side with your own, and in each of them, men and women must make choices. Choice will affect their own destinies, and perhaps that of the universe. I know, for I am the Watcher. That's how he sounds.
Yep, like Gary Owens from Laughing.
Like a fucking dink. I mean, seriously, it's just like that's not Uatu. I'm so glad that they like got away from this fucking weird, like the long head. He's like an albino leader, for Christ's sake.
He does look like the leader a lot.
Yeah.
And Gargoyle, if you recall Gargoyle from the Hulk comics, he was purple.
Yeah, wow, I didn't even think of that, but good call for sure. But I mean, there you go. Right at the end, the next issue that they came out with, number 2, is what if the Hulk had always had Bruce Banner's brain? Man, what would that be like, guys?
This is one of those examples where comics have come so far that art has imitated life, has imitated art, and all that. Things that were what if then, back in 1977, have become canon now. Like, if you look at the Future Foundation, when Jonathan Hickman took over his run, kills off Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and then like the next issue, I left this for my good friend Peter Parker, and Peter Parker joins up with the Fantastic Four and becomes the Future Foundation. That was a real interesting sort of thing, but that goes back to here, travels back to What If number 1 in 1977.
Yeah, and it is interesting to note there are other stories that we will talk about, not just What Ifs or Elseworlds, but others. Maybe I guess you could say like inspired projects that utilize those archetypes. There's 2 that I'm really looking forward to us covering. I can give you a little hint. The way I've been thinking of it is it's the Mark contrast comparison. If
So
you,
it's got to be Mark Millar. So
or
or
not.
ooh,
And also, it's pronounced Miller. I know it fucked me up too. It's Mark Miller. Fucking Scottish people, man. It's like, my mom's side of the family is Scottish. My mom, their name is Strachan, and it's ch right in the middle with an an, Strachan. But there's a town in Scotland called Strahan, and it's spelled the same fucking way. And like, why?
I
Why
was
on
just thinking
earth?
that's the best example of onomatopoeia in a family
Yeah,
name I've ever heard of.
and in Scotland, I guess
Strachan.
the whole thing is like Strachan is the person, Strahan is the place. Like that's how they remember it. I'm like, yeah, out loud, you fucking dicks. What do you do if it's on a piece of paper? Like, oh well, this must be the town. Why?
Paper. We don't have paper. Everything's damp over here. Don't you
Paper.
know?
Oh, listen to someone over here like they didn't have to grow up carving everything on pieces of bark.
I wrote my name on a sheep for the first time.
Do you know? Do you know how like the sheep farmers in Scotland find the sheep?
With a Strachan.
Very satisfying.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think Jesus has much to do with it, but no, it's going back to the what we're talking about here. No, there's some stuff. The Mark thing, I will say this much, and I can't wait to go into it. But there was a comic, and then another comic later on, and they're neither one of them. They are both projects that we can talk about and will talk about separately because they are alternate. They are not, mainstream. They are done as imaginary tales. But one was done one way much earlier, and the other one is similar. It's thematically similar in a manner of speaking, but the attitudes about what you could do with characters like that had changed so much in the years since the first story had come out that no one blinked an eye.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something that I've never read anything about that. I'm not saying like it was purposely done as an homage. I'm just saying thematically and with how the alternate reality stuff lines up, it's interesting to note. It's sort of like if you ever seen Dangerous Minds, the Dylan concert contest. It's that. I will show you where there is rhyme in the stanzas of these stories. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Play a song for me, man.
That's right. If you were around in 1996,
drugs, guys. It's about drugs. Did somebody say drugs? Oh wait, it was me. But yeah, so this is the first in a series of these shows where we'll be talking about what ifs. We'll become very familiar with Uatu. He'll be like the friend we never knew we had, but always truly wanted. And as we get past that, we'll be able to have some fun with DC coming into the game. We're not necessarily planning on going full bore right through certain things. We can jump around. That's part of the fun of this. There's no continuing stories from issue to issue on any of this stuff for the most part. There's an exception within one of the What If series, but we'll get to that. But we can do What Ifs for a couple weeks, and then I fully plan on jumping into something like Elseworlds Finest with Supergirl and Batgirl.
oh, nice. Yeah.
It's a world where Superman and Batman never existed. So the premier superheroes on this earth are Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, who looks fucking awesome, and she is a badass in it too, and Kara Zor-El, who landed as a teenager but was befriended by Lex Luthor, and he helps her to develop herself into Supergirl. And they have a cool alternate version of the Justice League. Actually, I think they still call the Justice Society. This big, so it sort of looks like a John Henry Irons, but it's not Billy Batson. as the captain, and they actually call him Captain Thunder in this Elseworld instead of Captain Marvel. It's like stuff like that. I fucking love that shit.
Oh
And
wow.
it's so much fun. It sparks so much creativity, and it shows. This is one of the things I love too. It shows like kids, younger people out there who might be checking things like that out, that you can just make up your own stories, and if it's good, people will definitely gravitate towards them. That's the fun of Elseworlds, without taking characters and trying to warp them. You take a finite story and say like, I just felt like doing this for a little bit, and that's that. It doesn't have to be anything more. So if you don't like the iteration of Superman being like Frankenstein's monster, that's fine. Then go read a book where Kal-El landed just outside the Gotham City limits and was found by Thomas and Martha Wayne instead of in Kansas and found by Jonathan and Martha Kent.
Speeding Bullets. Great book.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. I will say when we get to the DC stuff, there's a lot of Batman Elseworlds. We will
Yeah.
try to parse those out a little, because I like Batman, but I'm not trying to I'm not trying to eat Batman cereal for breakfast and then have a fucking Batman lettuce and tomato sandwich for lunch, followed by deep fried bat wings with curly fries for dinner. Like,
Chicken of the Cave.
it's too much fucking Batman, man. I'm just saying, like.
Well, if need be, we can cover on a dork night if yeah.
Oh, and no, I mean, I'm just busting chops a little bit. I plan on talking about it. I'm just saying, I don't want to be like, hey guys, so Elseworlds and Batman. Oh, for how long? Oh, ever. Like, no. Like, I will break it up, but there's plenty of stuff out there. I mean, we will talk about things that hopefully have a appeal to a lot of different people. One of the books that we'll get into as well. Anybody that's a fan of like not the big two, we're getting into like more independent, or what used to be independent publishers like Wildstorm. I mean, because they're now owned by DC. But Wildstorm and Top Cow, IDW, stuff like that. And just show you how everybody can bring something to this game. For crying out loud, I have a Ghostbusters comic that I'm planning on us talking about.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
We talked about some awesome Star Wars comics that I mean, that's an entire genre of stuff that for years was like, oh, it's canon. No, everything's in Elseworld.
Yeah, those, and we will talk about some of those too, which will be fun for me because I haven't read a lot of the Dark Empire and what have you, because I am that guy that was like, Star Wars is a movie series, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. So why the fuck do I care about these books again? Oh, thanks, Disney. I shouldn't. Good call on my part. And I mean, that I'm being crass. I'm not.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I just rubbed salt into so many wounds. I say it with love. I get it, because like I'm a nerd and I've had my knickers in a twist as well. I completely understand. I'm laughing with you, not at you. But yeah. Shoot, sorry, I got all wrapped up in apologizing. And
He's like, whoa, I blacked out there for a minute.
I like, what the fuck was I just talking about?
Garth, your pills.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to finally look at some of the Star Wars stuff. Because I've only ever read one Star Wars book or comic book, and it is something that we can, and I've talked with you about this, Justin. Like, I would like to cover it, at least the concept, because it is a long series.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of hit the bullet points, but I fell in love with the idea, and for me, I fell in love with it because it wasn't tied up into all the details of like the what is it, Battle of Yavin or whatever, blah 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 blah. It's like, if I see ABY 50 fucking times before I get to the actual first page of a comic book, I lose interest so goddamn fast. Like I'm like, oh, okay, how is it all broken down to before or after this one fucking battle? I don't get it. Like,
Leo got me hooked on that Darth Vader series that I think it was Kieran Gillian had written, and man, was that I went in low expectations, and between the art, which was amazing, and I want to say it was like Salvador La Roca, and I mean his.
left with middle expectations. Dope.
No, it blew me away. Like I didn't expect to like it, and I actually loved it. I'm like,
I've
wow,
seen
I
the
would
artwork.
read this
It's
series.
incredible. It's really, really good looking.
The story is really good as well.
Yeah, like it's
I've
compelling.
Heard that. I've heard
Yeah.
that. Some of the reviews I've seen, they're very impressive.
If you check our shared folder, you can partake.
Is that something that was covered over on the splash pages?
It was. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else that you guys check out splash pages on the Dorkening Network as well? They cover all the less cool comics.
We should probably mention the Spectacular Spider-Man show as well. Isn't that every other Tuesday?
Yeah, Chris does the Sal Buscema Spectacular Spider-Man. He changed the name.
He changed the name again this week.
Regardless, we're talking
How
about
did anyone find it if you keep changing it? Fuck them. That's my answer. If they found it, they fucking deserved it. They earned it. Not me, man.
They
Please
definitely
stay.
earned it.
We'll be Comics Paradox for a while. Let's be friends. Or even if you hate me, keep watching and tell me how much.
Exactly.
That's fine too. Go ahead. Your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what you cheer.
What if Brandon was Doctor Doom?
Well, like in the Corman movie.
I watched that whole documentary and I was like, wow, this guy was really into that role. Like
do you know who this guy is rather?
John something. I don't know. He was the father of someone, right?
The one that played Dr. Doom?
Yeah.
No, he
Or
is
the
son of Robert Culp from I Spy and the Greatest American Hero.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Like when I found that out, I was just like, I believe his name is Joseph Culp.
Wasn't he also in Cloak and Dagger, or is that too deep a cut? Okay.
First of all, no, it's not.
Okay. All right.
Because I love Cloak and Dagger. Dabney Coleman was who I pictured as J. Jonah Jameson for most of my childhood.
I totally can understand that.
Yeah, he was J. Jonah Jameson and Michael J. Fox was Spider-Man. But yeah,
Eric Stoltz. Wow.
yeah, not Eric Stoltz. Apparently, Universal and I were of the same mind there. Yeah, well, Eric Stoltz. I mean, like, I get why they fucking let him go. I mean, Michael J. Fox is like, Doc, I got a Toyota. This is a completely alternate reality from what I knew, but I love it. See, I kept it tied in, guys.
Yep, I like that.
But Eric Stoltz, he played it like, Doc, I have a Toyota, and my family's completely different. I don't know anything about my own life.
Hey, I'm gonna be in the background with Sean Penn, and he's gonna like steal my pizza. Is that okay? You're hired.
I'm just gonna go back to bed and cut myself to see if I still feel. Okay, Marty. Oh, see you later. And that's it. That's like the end of Back to the Future. It's like
he's all like, "Hey, is your mom still Cher? Can you hook me up?" Probably.
No, wait, no, not that.
Ronald Reagan.
Have you watched the movies that made us the Back to the Future episode?
Not yet. No.
I'm going to watch that maybe after.
It's hard for me to watch like a lot of Back to the Future stuff because, quite frankly, they all have like the same exact things to say 93% of the time. And as a 39-year-old who has just loved Back to the Future like his entire life, there's very little that I learn about that franchise that, you know, is new for me. I think the best thing altogether for nerds like me who love BTTF is the comic book series that Bob Gale wrote for IDW a couple of years back, because it really did flesh out not just like what happened after the trilogy of movies, but what Doc did in between, like seeing Marty and going on adventures and stuff. Like one of my all-time favorite things in any comic ever, knowing what I know about Back to the Future, in an alternate reality, that movie was made, and it was not a DeLorean that was utilized to travel through time. It was a refrigerator.
Yep.
And Robert Zemeckis was like, absolutely not. Children are stupid and they will die inside of those refrigerators. And so the genius who was really pushing for that idea, Steven Spielberg, said, fine, we won't do it. Bob, take it out of the script. And so he did. And they decided to go with the DeLorean.
And they added the refrigerator to Indiana Jones.
And then they added the refrigerator to Indiana Jones because Steven Spielberg apparently has really wanted to use that fucking gag. I mean, that's exactly what it was. Like, it was going to be a refrigerator that was going to protect the person inside of it from the nuclear explosion outside of it that was necessary for time travel. That's it right there. That's the visual Spielberg wanted. So when I was sitting in the movie theater watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I was simultaneously elated because I'm like, oh, this is what he was talking about. Like they mentioned for years, and also like just fucking bummed out because I just basically watched Indiana Jones go full blown Wile E. Coyote, and it was just sad.
I will defend parts of that movie.
Yeah,
I will actually defend
like
Shia
the very
LaBeouf.
beginning and the very end, like when you have no idea what's going to happen, and then you're relieved because no more of it was going to happen.
I think you got a really good Kate Blanchett there, right? That was Kate Blanchett, right? The CGI absolutely is so bad in that film. That is just like everything, but you know, there's some good parts, and that was actually filmed in New Britain, Connecticut, with a bus from the New Britain Transportation Company. Actually, it wasn't filmed in New Britain; it was filmed in New Haven. So I actually helped when I was working at a bank. I helped with the deposit and all that from the company that came in. They're like, yeah, they're filming a movie out here. Oh, what are you filming? Oh, Indiana Jones. What? You know, because they would come into our branch to make the deposit for the New Britain Transportation Company and all that. And they had this bus and they lent it out to them. So I was like, oh, tell me what's going on. So I got to see this, and I went to like the midnight showing to see it. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. And I mean, if you think about like alternate realities, Indiana Jones is that guy because it's so out there. And I mean, there's so many. If you've ever read any of those novels or any of the comics and all that, and what's happening? Oh, I found a dinosaur egg. What's going on here? Oh, Nazis are after it. Okay, well, you know,
I mean, isn't that always the fucking case in an Indiana Jones story?
It's just kind of
Nazis. Oh yeah, that's right, Nazis. I forgot. You're Indiana
but
Jones.
That's another property that lends itself perfectly towards like another sort of alternate reality type stuff. Like, oh, what would happen if, you know, Indy picked up the you know, the power of the Covenant or something, or picked up the Crystal Skull? Like, what would happen?
Well, it's what I was getting at too is it's interesting to see how changes like that affect the story even later when there was no intention to continue on, because when Bob Gale did the comic series for IDW, he did a different take, an alternate take on what he had planned on doing for Doc Brown and Marty working together in the movie. See, a lot of people don't realize this, but Marty actually did work for Doc Brown. Like he paid him, but Doc Brown and Marty, their whole business initially, the Universal pushed back hard on this. They were like, absolutely not. Marty and Doc made their money because Doc and Marty together, the reason that Marty had the video camera was that they pirated movies, and they were the best movie pirates in like the state. So everyone wanted to get their copies. And Universal was like, are you out of your fucking mind? We are a movie studio. You want us to turn this into a blockbuster where the main character makes his money by pirating movies from movie studios? We are movie studios, guys. And so
That's awesome, actually.
they're like, okay, fine. It was just funny. Like the medium that they were in was how they were going to like make their money to fund Doc's experiment. Well, in the IDW series, it's fantastic. Bob Gale still dips his toe into that same idea. Doc Brown, to make the money he needs to be able to travel around, particularly through the 20th and 21st century, he takes the DeLorean, drives, because he has not had it converted to fly yet in the future, all the way back to May 1938. And then he purchases
Action Comics #1.
Action Comics #1
Son of a gun.
by like the trunk full. Like he literally fills the trunk of the DeLorean with brand new, crisp, fresh, brightly colored Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman as created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster for National Comics. And he goes immediately to like 2016 and just walks into like a Sotheby's, like a really nice like auction house kind of place. And he's like, "Oh, I have this this really good quality comic." And they're like, "Yeah, you do." And they pay him like an assload of cash that they're like, "Yeah, this fucking sucker," because they're like, I just swindled this dude, and he still like thinks he's like shitting in high cotton. Meanwhile, he's like, "Yeah, I literally have like 78 more copies of that in my car right now." And that's what he did. He would just go to different points in the future where it was an out collectible and just sell it and make money hand over fist. That's how Doc made money. So in comic books, Bob Gale made the source of Doc Brown's revenue after he discovered that time travel was viable using the DeLorean. Comic books.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, on that note, guys, I'm really glad that we were able to talk about this very first issue of What If, kind of get the core concept of looking around and seeing the slightly askewed nature of what may have happened, what could have happened, but most certainly did not. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but that's half the fun of what we do here is figuring out where the story lies. Is it on either side of that or right in the middle? We'll see a lot of fun stuff, a lot of dark stuff, a lot of sad stuff, a lot of action filled stuff, and I really look forward to you all coming along for the ride, and please reach out to us. We're Comics Paradox. My name is Powerful Brandon, and I'm also smacking my microphone around here. Sorry, and
Too powerful.
It was talking a lot. We're talking a lot of shit before the show started. It had it coming. But I'm Powerful Brandon. You can find me over at the Powers Combined Facebook group, where we just talk about a lot of geeky stuff, share stuff. Justin is a member over there. Leo is a member over there. We have all guffawed many a times at many of the things that we've seen there, and also learned some stuff. Number one rule is just don't be a jerk, and if you do break that rule, you're gone. You are Swayze up in that bitch. You are ghost. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Brandon's Powers and on Instagram at this Brandon Has Powers, as well as every Wednesday at 9, I am on the Dorkening podcast with the Dorkening Network, and Mr. Leo is the one who hosts that over there. I would assume that Justin probably has some stuff he wants to talk about, and before he says goodbye.
Yeah, probably every once in a while. You can check me out on my podcast about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles called The Epic Tales from the Sewers. Also now a proud member of the Dorkening Podcast Network. And you can also find me on another Dorkening show. Occasionally I'm on the Splash Pages show, which is a lot of fun. We get to talk about books, like we did get to talk about the Star Wars Darth Vader book. And another Dorkening show, Geek Life HQ. That's all I got.
Awesome. Yeah, and for me, I do way too much shit around here.
Understatement.
I know. It's Mondays we're doing Creator Spotlight. Tuesdays we're doing Splash Pages. Wednesdays we are doing Still Token With and The Dorkening. And somewhere in there, I'm also doing the show for Chris, recording that, his Sal Buscema show. We're now doing The Dork Night and
The Dork Night.
Yes.
also this show as well. And we're also going to be starting a new show with a comedian in September. Hopefully he gets his stuff together. So I'll be producing that.
It's like you've never spoken to a comedian before.
I don't know. Sounds like funny business.
Yeah.
Waka waka waka.
We put off the show.
Sorry.
That's okay. We put off the show like 4 times already. But he has an awesome concept. He's a big name in New England for comedy.
I'm intrigued.
Dave Russo.
Dave Russo. I know that name.
Yeah.
Is he a Connecticut guy?
No, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Oh, Massachusetts. Okay.
Yeah, he's a Boston comedian.
Oh, he probably knows somebody I know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Is it the president?
No, I was in Boy Scouts and went to high school with a guy who he is from what I understand, he is still doing stand up. He never stopped. I mean, that's the thing about stand up. When you do it, you do it because you fucking love doing it. And he loves doing it. He's really funny. And he also I remember he interned for Conan O'Brien when he was still doing late night back in the day. But like I said, I would not be surprised if they know each other because my buddy is still pretty big on the Boston scene.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you know once it goes.
Yeah. I'm super interested. I can't wait to check it out. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So it's basically the premise is, what if he gets his shit together?
Yep, exactly.
That's the kind of connection you only find here on Comics Paradox, kid.
That's right.
Spread the word like motherfucking wildfire.
Yeah. What if he gets his shit together? What if he finds a co-host? What if he gets me that information so I can build the intro? That's about it. And then we're gonna be doing his show on Tuesdays. So just add it to the pile.
Fantastic. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, gang. So it sounds like we're straight up turning into the fucking Baskin Robbins podcasts, more than 31 fucking flavors. So come on by and figure out, whether or not rum raisin and brown sugar vanilla combo works for you, or just go with Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, or the what was it? Hunka burning.
PB
fudge.
Yeah.
Hulka burning fudge. Yeah. Oh my god. Well, I think we've very well covered what we are going to be looking at moving forward. And honestly, everyone, please check out every show that we've talked about. I mean, Geek Life HQ, The Dork Night. I'm sorry. What's that long? What's the turtle one again, Justin?
Epic Tales from the Sewers.
Epic Tales from the Sewers.
Yep. My next episode, I actually get to interview Kevin Eastman. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Until the next time we see everybody, just keep on top of your alternate reality takes on your favorite characters and stories, or else worlds.
Ooh.
Nice.